Hello and welcome to this episode of the Australian Investors Podcast. My name is Owen Rask. I'm the founder of Rask and the host of the Australian Investors Podcast. In this short episode, you're going to hear a different voice. You're going to hear Marc Jocum from Global X ETFs Australia. In this episode, Marc's going to give us a rapid overview of crypto ETFs, in particular Bitcoin. This episode is part of a new type of show where we're trying to bring you short, punchy episodes. If you like the format, please write into me. You can find me at www.rask.com.au, or you can have your say on the Rask community at community.rask.com.au. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Australian Investors Podcast.
Hi, my name is Marc Jocum, Senior Product and Investment Strategist here at Global X ETFs. And today I'm really excited to speak to you about investing in Bitcoin ETFs. Now, a lot of you may be thinking about having exposure to Bitcoin, hearing a lot about the asset class itself, the adoption rates are increasing, but how do you actually invest in a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin? And whilst you can decide to buy it on some crypto exchange, set up your own wallet, the great thing about ETFs is they are a very easy, simple, low-cost wrapper to hold Bitcoin for you that doesn't actually involve you setting up your own crypto exchange wallet. So it can be a nice, convenient wrapper. And Bitcoin ETFs themselves have only been around for a few years. In fact, Global X was the first issuer of a Bitcoin ETF fund in the Asia Pacific region. And even more recently, in 2024, we saw the US accept Bitcoin ETFs, and they have seen a lot of money coming into ETFs themselves, not just from everyday investors, but you're also seeing large sovereign wealth funds as well investing now in Bitcoin ETFs. So I thought as part of this episode, I wanted to take everyone through how I would be looking at assessing Bitcoin ETFs, particularly topical now because there are quite a range of Bitcoin ETFs on the market. Now, Global X, like I mentioned before, has a Bitcoin ETF, EBTC, which was the first Bitcoin ETF in the Asia Pacific region. And if for those who are interested in finding out more, you can actually go to our website, globalxetfs.com.au, to actually look at the particular fund page themselves. And if I'm an investor looking at a Bitcoin ETF, when you're looking at the fund page on the particular website, you really want to be looking at a few key things. The first thing is the inception or the track record of the underlying ETF. So the EBTC fund was built in May 2022. So it does have at least a solid track record of tracking the Bitcoin price. And the reason you want that is you want to make sure that the fund isn't infant and new, and a lot of funds do end up closing, and we did see some Bitcoin ETFs close in just a matter of 6 months back in November 2022. So you do want to look at the actual inception date of the fund to make sure it has got that track record. The other thing you want to do is look at the fees. Now, with something when it comes to cryptocurrency, the fee's not going to be a huge differential because naturally, Bitcoin itself is actually quite volatile. So whether you're paying something like 40 basis points, 50 basis points, 60 basis points, it's not going to make a huge deal to your long-term returns, but still very important to have a look at the actual underlying fees. Then you want to have a look at other things such as the unit price itself. You want to have a look at the actual underlying index. And importantly, you want to look at, particularly with Bitcoin ETFs, you want to look at the custodian. So for example, the custodian is the actual big institution that looks after the cryptocurrency for you. So for our EBTC fund, we use Coinbase, one of the largest custodians in the world when it comes to cryptocurrency, which has institutional grade cryptography to make sure your Bitcoin is safe and to make sure you don't have to worry about remembering your passwords or anything like that. And also you can take physical delivery of the Bitcoin itself if you want to. And that's, I think, another important question when it comes to looking at Bitcoin ETFs is how is the fund structured? So if you actually go to the fund's documents, you can have a look at the product disclosure statement. Now, the product disclosure statement, a lot of people don't like reading it itself because it's quite cumbersome, but through there, you can actually look at all the different not just the risk associated with it, but you can actually learn about how this fund is structured. And in Australia, there's a few different ways Bitcoin ETFs are structured, either as a one-tier level that invests directly in Bitcoin itself, or you can get things like feeder funds, which invest in an underlying fund that holds Bitcoin for you. So it's important to understand that the Bitcoin ETF itself does want to track the price of Bitcoin, but also have a think about how it's structured and if you're comfortable with that. Do you care if it's a feeder fund? Do you want it to be a single tier fund? These are the types of questions I would ask if I'm looking at an ETF, particularly a Bitcoin ETF. So when you're talking about the different types of structures, you can have a single tier, as we mentioned, which is looking in investing in the underlying Bitcoin itself, but it does come with its own licensing complications. And I think one of the reasons that we set up our EBTC fund as a feeder fund that goes into another underlying fund is because it was easier to come to market a lot quicker. We wanted to give access to our investors to Bitcoin a lot earlier, but also we wanted the assistance of a partner. And we've entrusted 21 Shares, one of the largest European issuers of cryptocurrency funds in the world. They were a much earlier adopter of cryptocurrencies than Australia. And we use them in terms of help to actually get exposure to the underlying Bitcoin. Importantly, though, that you have a physical entitlement to that Bitcoin itself. So if you were looking to get a redemption or you wanted to get your Bitcoin into your own wallet, you could still do that. And that's, I think, really important when you're looking at the actual redemption and creation process. Is it done by an actual cash itself, or is it actually done in kind and you can actually move the crypto from one to another? So that's why we went with 21 Shares. But you can have a look at the entire PDS to view all the related material. We've also got a range of research on our website, so you can click and learn about Bitcoin ETFs, what it means. We're constantly putting content on there. But I would highly recommend a lot of people to check the fact sheet as well, where this gives a nice little breakdown of the actual performance of the underlying fund, both on a calendar basis and on a trailing basis, and also gives a bit of understanding in terms of the actual product description itself, and a bit of information of some of the partners we work with. So for those interested in getting exposure to Bitcoin itself, I think ETFs are going to be pretty much, they're here to stay. I think we're going to see a lot more money coming into it. We've seen tens of billions of dollars come into US listed ETFs. There's probably going to be product innovation within Bitcoin ETFs. And it's not just Bitcoin itself. We also have digital assets around Ethereum as well. And I think the ETF has almost legitimized this decentralized finance application to create a symbiotic approach for both traditional finance and decentralized finance into one easy to trade security. We're seeing a lot more interest in Bitcoin ETFs, and we continue to see a lot of investors want that as part of their portfolios. So a lot of people ask, how do you use Bitcoin in a portfolio, or how do I incorporate a Bitcoin ETF in a portfolio? And I see two ways that people implement it. One is as a tactical satellite in their portfolio. A lot of people want to add a little bit of spice to their portfolio, and they've seen pretty much the incredible returns that, historically speaking, has been generated within Bitcoin, and they just don't want to potentially miss out on whether this actual cryptocurrency itself becomes an even larger part of the traditional ecosystem. So a lot of people, just to add a little bit of extra spice to your portfolio if you're looking at enhancing some of those risk-adjusted returns. But the other side I see a lot of people using it is as a strategic allocation within their alternatives bucket. We've spoken about things like gold being used as a defensive alternative. I'd say this is more of a growth-orientated alternative. And we're seeing a lot of people allocate maybe 1%, maybe 2% of their portfolio towards Bitcoin. And a lot of reasons people are doing that is to protect against currency debasement, particularly fiat currency like the US dollar. Because if Bitcoin does eventually become a bigger part of the global currency system as a means of exchange, it's going to be a lot more important for people to have it on their balance sheets and in portfolios. So there's two use cases, and we're seeing a lot of different investors incorporate it in different ways. If you're looking for more information around our digital asset ETFs, such as our Bitcoin ETF EBTC, jump to our website, www.globalxetfs.com.au, to find all the relevant information. You can also give our team a call. Jump onto our website, give our team a call. We'd be happy to help out. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.